Yeah, so good evening. Okay, so today's discussion is primarily from Bishop's book, PRML, section 1.2. Highly recommended, go through it. Um, okay, so in the last session, we discussed about probability theory and mostly discrete probability theory, discrete random variables, and then towards the end, we also discussed continuous random variables. Um, now, so those things are fine. You have read those things in so many places, but what's the intuitive understanding? Because you'll be working with real life problems. How do you deal with real life problems? What is the meaning of random variable practically? So this is just my understanding, which can be wrong. So the intuitive understanding is, so there are two kinds of views, Bayesian view and frequentist view. So the Bayesian view is something like this. So the probability of something tells about my degree of belief about that thing, like heads or tails. So if heads probability 0.5 or heads probability 0.6, it just conveys my belief that I am 60% sure that it will be a tails. So this model, probabilistic model, is my belief. It expresses my belief quantitatively. So let us discuss about continuous random variables. So continuous random variables could be, okay, how many marks will I get in the exam? Right, very relevant for us in practical life. How many marks will I get in the exam? So it can be continuous value, let's say decimals are also allowed. And then you will have certain belief, okay, maybe something in this range, or maybe this will have high probability. So you have got some expectation, some belief on different values of marks which you can get. So maybe graphically, let's say the exam is of 100 marks, so something between 0 to 100, you will have some belief, right? Something like this. How you construct this model, this is up to you. It's nobody stops you from constructing a model like this. With a Dirac delta at 100, everything 0, right? So another possible situation could be, how long will I take to complete my assignment, right? So important thing is, what is a random variable? In this case, the random variable is the marks which you are looking for. In this case, the random variable is the time which you want to estimate. How long will I take to complete my assignment, right? So my time is my random variable, the time which I spend on the assignment. And then I have my belief, okay, how do you estimate? Maybe you ask your friends, how much time did you take? So Ravi will say, I took 2 hours. And I will ask Nishant, how much time did you take? He will say, I took just 2 hours. So based on different samples, you will construct some. Maybe it will take me around this much time, whatever. Okay. So basically, you get lumps of samples. You ask Ravi, you ask Nishant, you ask Chapaneet. So different people you ask, and then you're getting samples, and then you approximate a function, and then you make a guess or a belief. Okay, this much should be there. Okay. An example. So this example is I have explaining in a little more detail. How long shall I take to complete this assignment? So my time is my random variable, right? So t is the random variable here. It's a continuous random variable. And these are the values which it can take. It can take potentially any value between 0 to plus infinity. Okay, which might, but your concentration of probability might be in, let's say, less than 7-8 hours. That is possible. So how do you estimate? You will ask, how long do people take to complete assignments? Okay, let us build a very general model in which you have got now 2 random variables. One random variable is the level of difficulty. This is your one random variable. This is a continuous random variable. Another random variable is time in hours. This is also a continuous random variable, right? And then you take different samples. Okay, you took assignment number 1, the level of difficulty was, let's say, very small, somewhere here. And people took this much time. So some people took this much time, some people took this much time, and based on that, you took all these samples and plotted them on your plot, right? The plot of two random variables. And then you took another assignment which has some different level of difficulty, and then you took samples from different people who did that assignment, and let's say it lies here, right? And now you have got another new assignment on which you want to estimate how long will you take, and your assumption is that I am no different than others, right? Like if others took this much time, I will also take that much time. Okay, this is my assumption. Okay, let me just discuss this point. So for a particular level of difficulty, let us say this level of difficulty, right? So let us say you got an assignment with this level of difficulty and you got a curve like this. What does this mean? Many people, they took 3.5 hours, 4 hours, or something between 2.5 hours to 5 hours, right? But then there are some people who did it really fast. Who are those people? Okay, so they are those who copied. Okay, so we don't want such people. So you can very well say, okay, I don't belong to this category, so I belong to this category. Let me ignore this part, and I will lie somewhere here. So if people took this much time, I will probably take this much time, like average of what others take. Okay, so the more advanced level which we discussed is, okay, you have got different levels of difficulties of assignment. Now, the next assignment which has come, it has a level of difficulty this much. And you do not have any samples for this level of difficulty. So what will you do? How will you estimate? Take an average of? Okay, so you will try some kind of interpolation, right? You will try some kind of interpolation. Anybody else with some other answer? The question is clear? I will repeat. So I have got a new assignment for which I know the level of difficulty. Like this is the level of difficulty. And I want to estimate how long will I take to do this assignment, right? So I'll go to previous assignments and I will ask different people, including myself, how long did I take or how long did others take to do different assignments of different levels of difficulty, right? And you got this data. For this assignment which was at this level of difficulty, people took this much time. For this assignment, people took this much of time. And like that you got different data. Now you have got another assignment which is somewhere at this level of difficulty, and I want to estimate how long will I take. And you have already kind of decided that you're not going to copy. So these samples are out of question. They won't lie in your, they won't spoil your estimation. Now, how will you estimate for this new level of difficulty? Okay, one thing. So, given the level of difficulty, this probability could be called probability of t given d. D is equal to whatever its value is, something 2.1 something, right? So this is the marginal distribution. All of you remember you studied last time marginal distribution. So what you do in case of marginal distribution, you take the value of d, like this one, that you took the value of d, fixed it in the joint distribution, and then you find this line and then normalize it, right? So basically this becomes equivalent to probability of t comma d equal to 2.1 divided by probability of d equal to 2.1. So this is basically normalizing the whole thing, because you can also write it like this. Just give me 1 second. You can also write it like this: probability of t comma d and sum or integration. It could be sum or integration, right? in this case, it's a continuous thing, so it will be integration actually into dt. Right? So this is how you do, which is this denominator is basically equal to probability of d equal to 2.1. D can be continuous variable as well. If it is discrete, that is also fine, but I have assumed it to be continuous random variable. I've written it as CRV, continuous random. Yes, the probability is 0, but probability density function is not 0. Probability density function is not 0, but probability of getting that exact value will be 0. So what you do is, okay, I know this is my value. Now, how do I marginalize over that? Does that make sense? If you do a random sampling, getting that value, probability is 0. But you have already got that value. Now you can estimate something on that. You're not randomly sampling that value. You have already fixed it. Okay, this is my value. Now I want to marginalize my, from that joint distribution, I want to estimate the values of other random variables, keeping this as fixed. So that can be done. So my PDF is not 0, but my probability of getting that exact value random when you do random sampling, that is 0. Okay. Any questions? So this is important. Now I am given a new assignment, so I know the level of difficulty, right? Okay, you may say that I do not know the level of difficulty, then I will do an estimate over there also. Okay, we are not considering that part. Let us say the level of difficulty is already given to you. This is the assignment, and instructor tells you this has level of difficulty, let's say 2.1, right? Now, how will you estimate how much time will you take? So suggestions came that okay, you do some interpolation, but what kind of interpolation shall we do? So the idea of probability theory or probability, the model which you construct, the idea is that you construct a smooth function to kind of estimate or to kind of interpolate to other values as well. Just like in the last time you had considered histograms. What is histogram? Histogram means you make small bins, and to each bin, like every value inside that bin, you assign the same probability, right? So constructing histograms is one kind of model. Sorry. Histogram means you make small bins. You can, in two-dimensional case, you can make a grid, right? Instead of bins, you can make a grid and consider each block with some probability. So let's say in this case, it will become something like this. If I make a histogram from here, it will be something like this. Okay, this block. Right, I will get a histogram like this. P, and this is the probability. It becomes capital P like here. Okay, fine, we're not. So this is one kind of interpolation or smoothing where you say, I never observed this value, right? Let us say this is 2. I never observed 2.1. But if I ask you, what is the value of PDF at 2.1? Or what is the probability that I get a value between 2.1 and 2.5? I may not have any samples in this. My sample might be at 2.6. But because of this approximation, I am able to kind of interpolating, right? So this is the crudest way of interpolation. Smoother way of interpolation will be what I have drawn with the green curve here. You make a smooth function and to estimate your model. And in this case also I have used the same green curve. This is a two-dimensional estimate. Actually it is three-dimensional. Basically T and D are there as your random variables or the variables, and the probability is maybe the third dimension, right? So consider this as a hill coming out, right? The hill, and from once you estimate this hill, then you can slice it and get the probability of T given D. Is this clear? I think these things you have studied in theory, but this is the practical implementation or practical example to illustrate that same theory. Okay, so the thing is here, limited observation capacity. Our observation capacity is limited, senses are limited, but we have to estimate something. So what we do, we use intuition to build models, which leads to simplification of the task, right? Because it will help you to estimate unknown things. It will help you to understand things with a more in an easier way, but with a caution that it can also lead to mistakes or errors. So we have the tendency to make mistake because of our limited observation capacity. We are limited, and then we make models. These models can be erroneous, and we make mistakes. And so we have to be careful that this can happen. Let us say there is the curve is not like this, but it is something like there is a very sharp well in the middle, but we never observed it, right? But we just extrapolated everything and we said, okay, everything is smooth like this, and that is how models break. It is not just true with probability theory; it is true with every theory what we do, whether it is electrical engineering or physics or chemistry. Every theory is prone to this error. Okay, so coming back to our theory now again, we discussed this last time, marginalization and conditional PDF, and then the Bayes rule. Today we'll see Bayes rule in a little more detail. Okay, let's going forward. Transformation of variables. I have got a variable called x, random variable, and I know the PDF. I know the probability distribution, probability density function of x. Now I want to estimate the PDF of x square or any transformation of x cube or x square plus x to the power 5 plus log of x plus exponential of x, any function. How will I do that? We considered that example. Okay, I know the value of voltage, but I want to estimate I know the probability distribution function of voltage. I want to estimate the PDF of power, right? Okay, so this is how we do it. So we are given Pxx. What does that mean? Px means the function. Px is different from Py, different functions altogether. I am given this function Px, and the variable here is x. And I know of transformation y, which is f of x. It could be x square or x cube or any function like this. And I want to estimate the probability of y, right? So try to think intuitively. When you take an x square, let me go to the previous example. Your voltage could have varied between minus V0 to plus V0, right? And your PDF, let us say it looks like this. But the power, if I want to consider the PDF of power, can I simply say, let us say V square by R, probability of V square by R. What shall I do? Shall it be same like this? Minus V0 to V0? Or shall it be square of this, normalized of course, some square estimation, probability of, basically it is, let us say this is PV, this is PV square. I'm sorry, what did I do? This was PV, right? Now what is PV square? Will this be simply equal to P square of V or maybe V square? Something, I don't know. How will it look like? Intuitively you know you will never get negative values, right? So the PDF here will be 0 for sure. This part will not be there, it will be 0 for sure if there is no square here. The different function altogether. And how to estimate that function? So how to estimate that function? Something like this. So we know that if my x, okay, to get a value y, so let us consider this function. This is the function. To get the value y, y can be this value when my x is either this x1 or it is either or it is this or it is this. X can be x1 or x2 or x3, right? If it is not a monotonous function, it won't be invertible. It will be something like this, right? Now I want to estimate my the basic thing to notice is, okay, my py dy, the probability that my y lies in the range y to y plus dy. Probability that y belongs to, okay, my random variable y belongs to some y1 and y1 plus dy1, right? This probability is equal to what? Now my y can come only when x is either x1 or x2 or x3, right? It can come when my x lies between x1 to x1 plus dx1, or my x lies between x2 to x2 plus dx2, right? Which are these things, right? This is the probability that x belongs to x1 to x1 plus dx1. So, okay, actually what is my y and dy? So my y and dy is a band here, okay? It is a band here, y and y plus dy, right? And whatever my curve is, I will go to this curve and I will find out my y can lie in this range only if my x lies in this range, right? Let us say this is x1 and x1 plus dx1. Notice that dx1 is different from dy, and or else my x can lie between x2 and, where is my pen? Okay, it can lie between x2 and x2 plus dx2. Notice that dx2 is not equal to dx1. Can you see that? dx2 and dx1 are not same. dx2 and dx1 are not same because of plain reason that the slopes are different. Okay, so is this equation clear? Is this equation clear? If this equation is clear, then you are done. So now this is just a rearrangement of variables. So instead of I take my dy down, I will say py dy is equal to similar px dx divided by dy by dx. So dy went here, so dy by dx, and calculated at x1 plus the same thing calculated at x2 plus the same thing calculated at x3. In this way, I can find out my py dy. Clear? Okay, yes, modulus. Why modulus? Because probabilities are positive, and basically what I want to convey here is this region and this region. How are they related? The length of this region dy and the length of this region dx1, right? So we are considering just the length, the magnitude part of it. So that is why you can either say dy here like this, which means you will get a modulus here. Thank you. Okay. Next is, okay, what kind of questions we can ask? Last time in the last class, we discussed the example of like a continuous random variable as roses. So what is the expected width of a rose? And equivalently, in my current example, what is the expected value of time that I will take, right? Or whatever time I will take, how much will it deviate from the average value, right? Or I could ask the question, what is the expected area at the top of the rows? Now this is you're considering probability of something like r square, pi r square, right? Different function. Random variable is different. Now random variable is area. Area is pi r square, right? Okay. Now what is the expected width of all roses with a height greater than 2 centimeters? So you have got two random variables now here, width and height. Probability of width given height is greater than 2 centimeters, and you want to find the expected value of this. Basically, p won't come then. Okay, we'll see the notation now. What is the expected value of any function fx when x follows the PDF px? It is like this. So my any function fx, I want to find the expected value of fx. So this will be simply fx into px dx integration over the entire domain of x, which is potentially minus infinity to plus infinity. Next is variance of fx. How much does it deviate from the mean value? Simple, that you subtract the mean value from all the fx and compute the expected value of that squared term. All these things are already known, right? You have already studied these things, so I can just quickly go over. Okay. Now next is the concept of conditional expectation. Conditional expectation means now your probability, you're not considering px only. It is p of x given the y is this value, and when x and y are not independent. X depends on y, right? If they're independent, then it is not conditional anymore. It is independent, right? So it will, but in case it is conditional, it means that x depends on y and y is known. So my x is little more known, right? So that is why the conditional expectation becomes f of x into px given y dx. Another concept is covariance. Covariance means how do x and y vary with respect to each other. If they are correlated, then the covariance will be non-zero. Let us say I have two curves. So let us say my probability of coming to the class, so my attendance in the class is one random variable. Another random variable is the day of the month, day of the year, day of the week. If it is Monday, it has certain value. If it is Tuesday, it is 0. The probability is 0. The probability of attendance equal to 1 is 0. And if my day is Friday, again it is close to 1. But if it is Thursday, then it is close to 0, right? So they co-vary, they vary, there is a dependence, so their correlation is non-zero. So if you find out the covariance, it will be non-zero, right? So covariance is between two different random variables. Let's say one is attendance in the class, second is the day of the week. Next concept is correlation. It is nothing but normalized covariance. So for example, I want to find, I'll take an example. I will take the TAs because I don't want to blame you. Let us say Ravi and who else is the TA? No TA. Okay, Ravi is one TA and let us say Vinay is another TA. So Ravi and Vinay, they are, let us say they are students and they always copy. So they always get almost similar marks because they both copy. So I have, let's say, 3 quizzes, 1, 2, 3, and their marks are like this. If Ravi is this, Vinay is, maybe Ravi is this, and this, and this, and Vinay is somewhere here, this, and this, right? So they are very much correlated. But if, so what is the value of correlation here? Let us say the value of covariance is, let us say, 10. I don't know what will it be, but let us say 10. Now, let us say all the quizzes I evaluate not out of 10. Let us say every quiz is out of 10 here. Let us say this is 5. Okay. Let us say now I have all the quizzes. I scale up all the quizzes, but the marks remain same. Right? Same distribution, but just that my quizzes are now of 100 marks. What will be the value of covariance now? Will it be same or different? Will it be same or different? Same. Okay. So what is covariance? Expected value of x minus mu x. This is my pen. This is expected value of x minus mu x into y minus mu y, right? So what is my x minus mu x? Mean is, let us say, something about 6, let us say. So x minus 6 and y minus 6, let us say both have same mean, summation over 1 to 3, and this will be something, and the other, in the other case, oh, I'm sorry, this was actually the other case, it is 60 here. In the other case it was 6. Right? So they will be scaled up, right? Scaled up by how many times? 100 times. Huh? 100 times scaled up. Why? Because both x and mu x are scaled up. Oh, sorry, 10. Both x and mu x are scaled up 10 times. Y and mu y are also scaled up 10 times. So that is why if you take the product, it will be scaled up 100 times. So it won't be same. So to make it comparable, to make it same, so we divide it by sigma x and sigma y so that they are easily comparable. Okay. So this is the meaning of correlation. It's just covariance but normalized by the standard deviation of individual random variables. Okay, the two random variables are said to be uncorrelated if their correlation is 0. Now there is something analytical here. Prove that two independent random variables are always uncorrelated. Can you do that? Prove that two independent random variables are uncorrelated. Should I leave it as a homework problem? Maybe you will see this question sometime again in maybe quiz or exam. Or if you want me to do it, I can do it on the board. Is it too easy? Easy. Easy? Raise your hand if you want me to solve it. You want me to solve it? Okay, I can do that. Okay, so the thing goes like this. You have two random variables x comma y. If they are independent, what can I say? If they are independent, how will their joint distribution, the joint density look like? I can write it as px into py. What is the definition of correlation? Is equal to expected value of x minus mu x, y minus mu y, divided by basically something, sigma x, sigma y. If this is equal to 0, oh sorry, this is what I have to prove, okay, let me not write it. Let us consider the numerator now. The numerator, how do I write the numerator as? Numerator, can I write it like, okay, how will I write it? Integral of, so whenever you see the term E or expectation, like don't get confused, I often get confused, but you don't get. You just multiply it with P of x comma y and integrate over x and y. X minus mu x, y minus mu y into P x comma y dx dy integrated over both x and y, right? This is the definition of expected value. Now you can break this into px into py, right? And you can do this is equal to integration of x minus mu x into px dx, and I can separate the two variables because they are not, means they are separable now. There is no term in py or in this part which depends on x. So that's why I can write it like this. Is it clear that this is equal to 0? Why? Okay, I think you can do it. Basically, x into px, the integration will be mu x. Mu x into px, the integration will be mu x because in px sums to 1. So it becomes mu s minus mu x. So this is 0 into 0. Okay. Okay, now very important concept here. Please pay attention here. Samples versus PDF. You are given a distribution. You are given a PDF. What is PDF? It is your belief. It is your model, right? It's your model. And what are samples? Samples are the actual values which you have seen. So they are different. Do not confuse between them. If I ask you, what is the expected value of x, and I give you px, what will you do? You will, You will do x into px dx integrated over all x, right? Now if I give you px and I give you 50 samples, what will you do? I give you 50 samples from this distribution and I ask you to find expected value of x. What will you do? So what I will do is, I will say x into px dx integration. This is equal to my sample of whatever is the value of x, si, into p of si, summation over I divided by the number of maybe. Actually, that is not required. How many of you agree with this thing? How many of you agree with this? How many of you agree with this? Raise your hand properly. How many of you do not agree with this? How many of you do not agree? Raise your hand like tall so that I can see. Only only two hands. In this class of supposedly 110 people, only two hands. What is the problem?
Px might not be the distribution it actually follows.
Why?
You said Px is what are.
Okay, given that the model is correct, I am sampling from that model. So my expected value of x is summation over all the samples into probability of that sample summed over all I. Means sum over all the samples. No, samples will be everywhere, no? I have 50 samples, they will be spread throughout the area. Probability of 1, pardon? Probability of single discrete point is PSI, yes. Probability is 0, but this is PDF, right? PDF is not 0. Okay, let us consider discrete variables. In that case, we can do it, right? Okay, expected value of x. So in discrete case, this will become summation over x, px, right? Or let us say I, whatever it is, okay. Summation over all I. And this one will, okay, so I'm saying that this is, let us say S is a discrete variable. Basically, S are samples from discrete random variable and px is given. Probability of xi, psi, phi. No, I'm telling that I'm giving you the underlying distribution. I have given you the underlying distribution and I'm sampling from that distribution only. Means, let us say I'm randomly picking somebody from here. Then my underlying distribution is uniform. Let us say I'm picking more from this side, so my underlying distribution will be something like this, right? So I'm giving you the exact underlying distribution or the best possible underlying distribution, and I ask you, can you tell me the expected value? And I'm giving you samples from this distribution. It is fine. So this is an approximation. That's what I've written. Approximated.
Sir, is that PSI is saying in the P of xi for corresponding xi?
Good question. It is not. These are samples. These are samples from that distribution. These are the actual values which you observe from that random process. Random.
From the samples, we need to calculate the probability. We need to
We need to do some kind of
binning.
binning. That's what we have done already. It is done for you. I have done all kind of estimation, binning, histogram, everything, and I concluded that P of x is the best possible distribution you can get. Now I have given you 50 samples, and I ask you, can you calculate expected value of x? And there is another potential candidate, which is basically this one. Which one is correct, this one or this one? For any general Px, I'm not telling just uniform distribution. P of Si will sum to 1, yes. Or means PDF always sums to 1. Samples are not, I can have 50 samples, then PS will have some value. I take 100 samples, P of S will sum to some other value. How will this sum to 1? I'm increasing my number of samples, right? I'm increasing my number of samples. So they won't sum to 1. No, I may not get uniform. I may not have uniform distribution. It might be a skewed distribution where I'm choosing more from this side and less from this side.
Is P the summation and the P is the same function? Or are they different?
P is the same function.
It's not possible that P of S is sums to
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's not. It doesn't sum to 1.
It's not correct.
Yes. So this is not correct. The reason being, okay. The reason is that when I say summation over px dx, this x it basically is a number line, right? You are finding x is basically the index of on the number line, right? But when I say s are the real samples from that distribution. They are not the entire number line. They are real samples. So this formula is not correct. This formula is not correct. This formula is correct. So you just take the average value because that curved part is automatically taken care of, because when you are taking samples, you will get more samples from this region and less from this region. You'll get many samples from this region because it is high probability region, right? So when you do the average, so this formula is true for no matter what is the underlying distribution. Whatever, you did not estimate P of x to get this formula right. But on the other hand, for the other formula, which is this one, this xi are the your number line or your bins, like the indices of the bins. So there is a big chunk of this difference between sampling and the actual PDF. So samples are coming from that PDF, they automatically carry that weight. So you do not multiply them with P of x to estimate anything. Question please. Okay, so these SI, the values themselves are skewed. You will get more values from the region which have more probability, and you will get less values from the region which have less probability, right? So when you add them up, so that Px term is automatically taken care of because the more probable region is having more samples, right? So this point is very clear, very important, but it is not clear to most of us that there is a difference between samples and the number line. So x is the number. That is why I'm using different notation. I could not find this kind of notation in any book. Generally, people use same notation, so that's why people get confused. Now I have used s for the samples and x for the number 9, so that you don't do this mistake. Okay. So this is how it looks like. It could be for any function. I want to estimate a function, the expected value of any function of x, given the PDF of x, then it will be this thing. But if I give you the actual samples, then it will be this thing, right? So please do not do this mistake. Now, so standard distributions. We'll discuss about standard distribution in the next class.